Something is happening on Everest that no one has a policy for. The mountain is starting to give things back. Bodies buried under decades of ice are reappearing, and families who thought they had already said goodbye are being pulled back into a story they believed was over. For 18 years, climbers on Everest's northeast ridge used a body as a waypoint. Tsewang Paljor, an Indian climber who died in 1996, lay frozen in a limestone cave at around 8,500 meters, his lime green boots visible from the route. Guides referenced him in briefings. Climbers passed him without stopping. And then, in 2014, he was gone. No announcement, no formal process, no clear record of who made the decision. Someone moved him. No policy required permission. No policy prevented it. And that decision reveals a question no one has fully answered. When a body is left on Everest, who decides what happens next? If you value the investigative side of mountaineering that mainstream media glosses over, subscribe to Summit X. The Himalayan database has recorded 311 deaths on Everest through 2024. Roughly one-third of those people are still on the mountain. That is approximately 100 bodies, at various altitudes, in various states of preservation, on a mountain that receives hundreds of paying clients every spring. The distribution is not even, and that matters. Below Camp 2 at around 6,400 meters, helicopter access makes recovery difficult but possible. Teams traverse those slopes constantly. Bodies in that zone are almost always brought down. Above 8,200 meters, the arithmetic changes completely. The logistics barrier is not gradual, it is a threshold. Cross it, and the probability of recovery approaches zero. The highest concentration of unrecovered bodies sits on the northeast ridge in an area called Rainbow Valley. The name comes from the multicolored climbing suits visible against the snow. There are an estimated 40 to 80 bodies in that general area, some skeletal, some preserved almost exactly as they were on the day they died. The cold and low humidity at extreme altitude strip the mountain of the bacteria that would otherwise decompose a body. What the mountain takes, it keeps. Climate change is complicating this further. Nepal Army Major Aditya Karki, who led the 2024 cleanup campaign, noted that global warming effects mean bodies and rubbish are becoming more visible as snow cover thins. Families who were told a decade ago that their person was permanently buried under meters of ice are now receiving calls that the body has resurfaced. No policy framework exists for that situation. The grief that had run its course is being reopened. The 2024 campaign was the most significant organized effort Nepal has mounted. 12 military personnel, 18 Sherpas, multiple weeks of work. The total budget exceeded $600,000. The result was 5 bodies recovered from Everest, Lhotse, and Nuptse combined. Major Karki estimated the cost at $75,000 to $80,000 per body. 5 bodies out of an estimated 100 on Everest alone. At that rate, full recovery of the mountain's dead would take decades and hundreds of millions of dollars that no government has committed to spending. The 2017 recovery of Indian police officer Gautam Ghosh shows what a successful mission actually requires. 5 Sherpas worked 28 continuous hours without food or sleep to bring one body down from approximately 8,400 meters. They used a stretcher to keep the body intact during transport. The descent took days. Total cost for that single operation was approximately $66,000. That was considered a success. The scale of the problem is measurable. Every number in this story is documented and verifiable. What is not measurable is who bears responsibility for solving it, and whether solving it is even the right frame. Because the decision of whether a body comes down from Everest is never made by one person, under one authority, guided by one set of rules. It is made by whoever holds the most leverage on a specific day, in specific weather, with a specific budget. And that system has no name. But the physics of the death zone only explains why a body stays on the day the climber dies. It does not explain why they are still there 20 years later. To understand that, you have to look past the ice and into the shadow system of authority that actually runs the mountain. Nepal's official position is clear on paper. Expedition agencies are required to bring bodies down. Since 2024, agencies must recover any body before they receive their garbage clearance letter. the administrative document that closes out a season's permit. The Department of Tourism has the authority to withhold summit certificates from teams that leave bodies behind. The policy exists. The enforcement gap is wide enough to walk through. The 2023 case of Australian climber Jason Kenninson shows exactly how the system breaks down. Kenninson died on the balcony at 8,500 meters. Multiple agencies disputed who held responsibility for his body. He had contracted a base camp logistics service, not a full guiding operation. Under Nepal's mountaineering expedition rules, a death certificate cannot legally be issued until a government official has seen the body. No government official can reach 8,500 meters to view a body. The certificate was stalled. A $3 million insurance payout sat frozen for months while Kenninson remained above 8,000 meters. The report that documented this was published while he was still on the mountain. That case maps the full stakeholder problem. The climber's pre-death wishes are the most morally significant input that exists, but they carry no legal enforcement weight. A written note saying, "Leave me on the mountain," cannot be acted on by any court. If no written record exists, the wish is unverifiable. Immediate family holds next of kin status in most legal systems, but they have no physical means to act on it. Nepal officially requires family financial consent before any recovery operation can begin, which means a family that cannot pay $40,000 to $200,000 has no option regardless of what they want. That is not a technical problem, it is a class problem. The expedition agency sits at the center of the practical decision. They have the personnel, the logistics, the relationships on the mountain. They are the ones who make the call on whether recovery is feasible this season, in this weather window, at this cost. Their incentives do not always align with the family's interests. Agencies want their garbage clearance letter. They want their permit status preserved. They also want to avoid the cost and risk of a death zone recovery. The pressure from the Department of Tourism pulls one direction. The arithmetic of a 28-hour extraction at altitude pulls the other. On the north side of Everest, the Chinese government holds authority. Their approach to visible bodies on the Tibet route appears to treat visibility as a management problem. Bodies that can be seen from the route are moved or buried. The decision is made without transparency, without family notification in documented cases, and without any stated ethical framework beyond the practical goal of reducing their impact on the climbing experience. Then there are the Sherpas. They are the ones who physically execute every recovery that happens. Their assessment of feasibility is the final word. If they judge a recovery too dangerous, it does not happen. No permit, no family consent, no Department of Tourism directive overrides that judgment. Individuals like Gesman Tamang have completed over a dozen recoveries across Nepal's highest peaks, treating it as both professional specialty and a form of service. Others decline on religious grounds. Everest is Chomolungma, sacred ground, and disturbing the dead carries spiritual weight that no permit system accounts for. Insurance companies hold the financial trigger. Some policies cover body recovery. Some cover rescue, but exclude body recovery. The definitions vary. The approval process takes time. That delay, while a body sits at 8,500 meters, is documented in multiple cases. No single authority controls the outcome. The decision emerges from whoever holds the most leverage when the weather window opens and the clock runs out. That matrix looks organized on paper. But on the northeast ridge, where the wind strips the surface and the oxygen is a third of what it is at sea level, the paperwork disappears. These three cases are not illustrations. They are the evidence of exactly what happens when that system of overlapping authority meets a real human being at altitude. Sawang Paljor died on May 10, 1996, during the same storm that killed 8 climbers on Everest's south side. He was 28 years old, an Indo-Tibetan border police climber attempting the northeast ridge. He died in a small limestone cave at approximately 8,500 meters. His lime green boots became the detail that every subsequent climber remembered. For 18 years, those boots were a navigation waypoint. Guides referenced him in pre-expedition briefings. His cave was a rest stop. His identity was inferred but never officially confirmed, partly because no government formally attempted identification. His family in India was never publicly consulted about any of it. In 2014, he disappeared from the cave. The most widely accepted explanation is that a Chinese expedition or Sherpa team moved or buried him further, reducing his visibility from the route. No announcement was made, no notification reached his family, no explanation was offered by Chinese authorities, who managed the north side. The decision that ended 18 years of Paljor serving as an involuntary landmark was made without the knowledge of the one government that might have spoken for him or the family that lost him. What drove it was not dignity, it was image management. The clearest example in Everest's history of government authority overriding family rights without acknowledgement. Frances Arsentiev died on May 24, 1998, on the same northeast ridge. She had become the first American woman to summit Everest without supplemental oxygen. Her descent went wrong. Her husband Sergei went back into the death zone to find her, and also died. When climbers Ian Woodall and Kathy O'Dowd encountered Frances alive that day, she was frostbitten, delirious, and unable to move. They spent more than an hour attempting to help. The altitude, the cold, the complete absence of rescue equipment made meaningful intervention impossible. They descended. She died. Her body lay visible on the route for 9 years, earning the nickname Sleeping Beauty for the stillness of her frozen form. Hundreds of climbers passed her each season. In 2007, Woodall organized a voluntary return expedition with no government mandate, no insurance backing, and no formal authority. His team found her, wrapped her in an American flag with a note from her son Paul, and lowered her body to a slope below the main route where subsequent climbers would not encounter her. She is still on Everest. But the decision to move her was made by the person who felt the deepest personal responsibility for leaving her, driven by guilt and a specific sense of moral obligation that no permit system required of him. The contrast with Paljor could not be sharper. Both bodies were moved off the main route. The difference is entirely in who decided and why. David Sharp died on May 15, 2006, in the same cave where Paljor had lain for a decade. He was on a solo, low-budget climb with no Sherpa support and no safety infrastructure. At least 40 climbers passed him at various stages of his dying. Some reported him conscious. Some reported him speaking incoherently. None made a serious rescue attempt. He died alone in a cave that had already held one body for 10 years. Sir Edmund Hillary said he was appalled. Others argued that at 8,500 meters, any rescue attempt would have created additional deaths, and that Sharp's own choices had placed him beyond practical help. Both arguments have weight. Neither resolves the question of whether passing a living person at that altitude is an ethical failure when rescue is physically impossible. The mountaineering community has not resolved it. Sharp's death remains the sharpest point of that unresolved debate. Same mountain, same altitude range. 3 completely different outcomes, driven by 3 completely different sets of decision-makers with 3 completely different motivations. Those cases are not just stories. They are the friction points where 3 ethical frameworks collide, and on Everest, none of them wins cleanly. How you view the dead on that mountain depends entirely on which of these 3 positions you hold. The first position is that the mountain is their grave. The climber chose this risk and this place. Many explicitly said, before they left, that they wanted to stay there if they died. Szilard Sohajda's wife made that request public after he went missing near the Hillary Step in 2023. Leave him on the mountain if found. That sentiment is shared by many mountaineering families. The mountain defined the person. Remaining there is a form of honor, not a failure. Recovery attempts risk the lives of the Sherpas sent to execute them. In 1984, 2 Nepali climbers died attempting to retrieve a body. The arithmetic of trading living people for dead ones is not a straightforward moral calculation. The second position is that all bodies should come down. In every other emergency context, the standard practice is to recover the dead. Families deserve closure. The presence of bodies on commercial routes causes documented psychological harm to passing climbers. Nepal Army Major Karki said explicitly that clients were distressed by passing the bodies of dead climbers, and that this can have long-lasting effects on their well-being. Nepal's official policy already requires recovery. The argument for consistent enforcement is also an argument for the rule of law. Permit fees and insurance requirements generate revenue that could fund recovery infrastructure if the political will existed to build it. The third position is that each case requires its own judgment. A body blocking a fixed rope at South Col is a different problem than a body in an inaccessible crevasse above 8,700 meters. The family's wishes and the climber's own expressed preference should carry the most weight, but they are not the only weight. Weather windows change seasonally. Risk assessments change with conditions. What is irrecoverable in May might be accessible in September. Context-specific ethics acknowledge what the other two positions do not, that the mountain is not a single environment and the dead are not a single category. The financial dimension cuts across all three positions and complicates each one. A family that cannot pay $40,000 to $200,000 has no recourse regardless of which position they hold. Their wishes carry moral weight and zero practical leverage. That gap between moral weight and practical leverage is where most of the deaths on Everest actually end up. The Sherpa perspective is almost entirely absent from Western coverage of this question. These are the people who pass the same bodies season after season, who perform the recoveries when recoveries happen, who hold religious beliefs about Chomolungma that no permit system has ever formally acknowledged. Their view of what the mountain owes the dead has never been systematically recorded. The decision has never been clean. It has always belonged to whoever holds the most leverage on a specific day, in specific weather, with a specific budget. Unknown hands moved Sawang Paljor in 2014 without notifying his family. Unknown decisions buried others under ice and called it permanent. The system worked as long as the mountain kept its side of the arrangement. The mountain is no longer keeping it. As glaciers recede, every body that was managed away by silence, by cost, by the gap between Nepal's policy and its enforcement, is becoming a problem again. The families who were told it was over will find out it is not. The agencies that close their files will receive calls they cannot redirect. The system of overlapping authorities and competing financial interests that produced no clear answer for a century will have to answer for all of it at once. The ice is the only authority on Everest that does not negotiate, and it has already made its decision. If this investigation opened your eyes to what the mountain is about to force into the open, subscribe and ring the bell. The forensic breakdown of what comes next is already in progress.